Are you cool? Are you cool if I'm chewing some gum, or is it a
Please
issue with the?
chew all you want. It's not
Okay,
an issue.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably used to at least there was this one interview that I saw. I think you did on NDTV with when Titli released. You were sitting with Ranveer Shori and Dibakar Banerjee. So, are you used to a more scripted format of conversation?
Not at all. No, actually, matlab, I've never done a scripted conversation, other than like if it's a written interview, other than if the questions are emailed to you or whatever.
Yeah. What is your reaction when the interviewer emails the questions to you, and then you sort of parse through them? कि अच्छा इसका ये जवाब होगा, इसका ये जवाब होगा. Do you feel it helps when you actually do the interview?
No, it totally depends. Actually, I mean, I guess I would prefer a non-written interview, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're doing so many interviews around a film that you get a little, after a point you've said it all, and it feels like you're repeating yourself.
Right.
Because there's only so much that you can say around a film, even when you're interviewing after the film is out, and people are asking a certain set of questions. So उस moment पे I think sometimes the written interviews help, because you can, the voice can be slightly different, and sometimes I feel like articulation बदल जाता है अगर आप एक बार लिख के कुछ कर लो. And usually मैंने ये notice किया कि जो written वाले interviews होते हैं वो थोड़े ज़्यादा sensible होते हैं. So but it's not, you can't say that as an overall thing, but sometimes if the questions are interesting and there are different things which have not been explored around what you're talking about, then it can be interesting also. Right.
One thing that has not been explored that I have been interested in, at least for as long as I've been, I grew up reading Khushwant Singh from the ages of 8, despite my dad forbidding me to do so. Khushwant Singh बड़ी गंदी तरीके से लिखता था. So I was fascinated by voyeurism. Voyeurism is not necessarily well documented in India, at least in film, the way it should, right? And then, you've obviously written LSD, and then Binnu Ka Sapna heavily deals with voyeurism. So is this something that you naturally had a proclivity for, this idea of wanting to explore voyeurism?
No, ऐसा नहीं है. LSD was a different experience altogether, because LSD भी voyeurism से इतना, okay, yeah, I guess. I mean, for me, the thematics of the film was different. It really was about love and the transactionality of love, तीनों कहानियों में. तो voyeurism मेरे लिए उसका एक secondary, almost एक byproduct था film का. Or it was just a lens through which you were seeing these human beings, these three different stories, and it almost becomes like it's like an item number for that film. Ki camera hai, and how is the camera impacting our lives now today. So it's a pull. It's the Katrina Kaif of that film. Ki aa jao ab isko dekhne. But beyond that, I think for me, all the three stories when we were writing it was really a view into three different sort of transactional views into love and sexuality. Or Binnu Ka Sapna bhi, for me, underneath for me, voyeurism was not really a sort of how should one say, it wasn't something that was top of the shelf when I was writing the film.
Right.
For me, it was more about anger, and how does one deal with anger, and where does this anger come from. So it was more an exploration of anger for me. And the story plays itself with a lens onto that angle.
Right. Yeah. When I was watching Binnu Ka Sapna, I could not help but notice there is this very prevalent online community on Reddit and YouTube. It's called incels. These are guys who have declared themselves to be involuntarily celibate. Like it's not in their control that they're not getting laid, right? And then you see their forums, and you see the same sort of बड़ी गहरे औरतों के लिए नफरत almost, और उस लेवल की justification, अपने आप को victim बनाना, And there have been several threads on Reddit which have been taken down because incels often are trying to incite riots and violence against women because they're frustrated कि उनको मिल नहीं रही, उनको sex नहीं मिल रही. So I was confused when I was watching Binnu Ka Sapna कि was he getting it or was it in his imagination?
Was what in his imagination?
Like, was he actually having sex with these girls or was it in his imagination that he was having sex with these girls?
No, he was. He did have sex for the first time with that girl in the party.
Right.
And then he eventually did meet a girl. But I mean, yeah, it's an interesting idea. ये जो incels की बात तुम कर रहे हो. That's I didn't know about these forums or this thing. But I mean, I think I've always been interested and find myself more and more interested in exploring areas जो usually कोई बात नहीं कर रहा है आसपास. जैसे even with Titli, for me it was a film about family और family में जो बात नहीं होती है. So once that was done, then I asked myself, what is it that I really want to talk about next? And I think sexuality के बारे में there is no real conversation that happens in Indian
absolutely
films.
not.
Forget film lives में हम लोग आपस में बात ही नहीं करते हैं. These are areas of our life that we you know on a huge level we just refuse to acknowledge our sexuality. So I think I've been on that journey with Binnu and now with Agra, which is the next feature that I'm doing to explore my own sexuality and talk about sexuality in general and see what the whole deal is about. So with Binnu, the idea.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Irrespective, you were saying something about Binnu के अंदर sexuality का जो idea हम discuss कर रहे थे वो रह गया था बीच में.
हाँ, yeah. So I was saying this larger journey that I found myself on over the last few years. I think some of it has it began with Binnu, but it has also become a larger exploration with Agra. कि ये जो sexual lives है हमारी उसके बारे में कोई बात क्यों नहीं करता और especially I mean my own personal experience is the experience of your typical average Indian male. So I can plug into it and at least try to do some sort of an honest exploration through that. So Binnu for me was an exploration of your average Indian boy's repressed sexuality, seen through the lens of anger. So more than voyeurism, it was for me that average, low middle class or middle class Indian boy who doesn't get it on a journey to get it at some point, but probably gets it late or not as soon as he wants it. And how does he deal with this sexuality? वो करता क्या है जब उसे नहीं मिल रहा सेक्स, तब क्या कर रहा है, पर और फिर मिलने के बाद वो क्या करता है, और इस पूरी जर्नी पे वो बदलता कैसे और पकता कैसे. वो पक के लड़के से जो आदमी बनने का स्टेज है और आदमी बन के जो पेट्रियार्कल आदमी बन जाता है बाद में कहीं जाके, जिसके लिए औरत तो एक जरिया है, बट औरत के थ्रू मोस्टली वो सेक्स चाह रहा है बहुत ही रूटेड लेवल पे अगर देखें. तो वो जो एक फीलिंग ऑफ ओनरशिप है, वो किस चीज की ओनरशिप है? एट द रूट ऑफ इट व्हाट इज ही ट्राइंग टू ओन, राइट? So sexuality and the act of sex, I feel, is a big part of it. So I think for me, it was Binnu ka sapna is also the sapna of having a girl just like his mother, na? Because it ends with the point of Chai Piyogi, because the father always wanted, so it's also exploration of that fake ideal and how in such a fucked up way you're continuously trying to create that fake ideal.
Yeah, fuck man, you talked about a lot of interesting points there. सबसे बड़ी बात ये, the Indian sexuality, forget sexuality in males only, in general is very repressed. There was something very interesting that I read by this Indian psychologist called Sudhir Kakkad. He's in his 80s now. He says Indian parents happily trade their sexual roles for parental ones, and then once that happens, the sexuality has those ugly lashes that वो कभी-कभी ऐसे ugly lashes में बाहर आती है, फिर वो दोबारा से उसको repress करते हैं. पूरा हमारा इकोसिस्टम ही एक मैसिव रिप्रेशन में, इवन फ्रॉम यू नो the very sappy jokes about marriage that they forward on WhatsApp कि ऐसे हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, right, to the way uncles will share like nudes of like girls in Bangkok on their WhatsApp forwards, again in a way to release that, because बहुत मतलब scene off होता है sexuality का. And beyond that, I personally, I don't know about you, for me sex was the reward in my 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 तक भी, क्योंकि सब लोगों को टेक्निकली ऐसे मिल रहा था और सब कह रहे थे कि हाँ यार मैं तो सेक्स कर चुका हूँ. तो I would the more I put sex on a pedestal, the worse it became, because all my activities were then directed toward getting it. And once I actually got it, it was like, it's एक regular सी चीज है, ऐसा क्या है. पर उसका unnecessary build-up, एक unnecessary narrative उसके आसपास बनाना, society से influence होके कि सबको मिल रहा है, तुम्हें नहीं मिल रहा, ये है वो है. So when you were saying, what's the narrative that happens? I think it's pride. I think it's the ability to say to your friends or to yourself कि मैंने कर लिया, I finally achieved it.
Yeah, possible. I mean that has to be a part of it. The peer pressure that you say has to be a part of it. But I feel it's a much larger sort of societal repression. There's a societal matrix that is already created जो is सबसे ज़्यादा superseding है. Before you and me were also here, there is already a superstructure which is in place जो already बहुत सारी चीजें बहुत सारे patterns create कर रहा है, जिन patterns के साथ हम आगे चल रहे हैं. The battle really in our lives is, I feel, not so much against ourselves as against the superstructure. तो आप लड़ तो एक बड़े structure से रहे हो और उसको break करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो. तो उसको ब्रेक दो तरह से करा जा सकता है. या तो स्ट्रक्चर को समझ के किया जा सकता है, या फिर एक बहुत ही मतलब इट्स द डिफरेंस बिटवीन मेज के अंदर चलना या फिर मेज के ऊपर जाके उसको एक टॉप एंगल से देखना और टू बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड वेयर डू आई exit it from. So it's important to look at the superstructure. तो आई फील पीयर प्रेशर शायद उसका एक छोटा सा हिस्सा है, और बहुत जरूरी हिस्सा, बिकॉज मेरे और तुम्हारे केस में शायद ये अलग था. मेरे को इतना पीयर प्रेशर नहीं था. मैं जिस ग्रुप में था जब मैं यंगर था, तो कोई भी सेक्स में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं था. वी वर इंटरेस्टेड इन मेनी अदर थिंग्स. इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं था, टू बी ऑनेस्ट. आई मीन कंप्लीटली ऑनेस्ट, इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं था. There was no talk of women because we were so busy exploring so many other things around us. So I didn't have that awareness of my sexual side till as late as probably 21 or 22, because before that I was just so interested in I don't know, just reading so many books or watching films around me, or just discussing computers with my friends, or just sports or so many other things. Now that itself indicates ki sexual side kitni repressed hai. It's not even in the sort of in your first circle of awareness, or so to say. So I feel it's a larger sort of structure that you're dealing with.
Right. I mean, just the fact कि यार इंडिया में लोग 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 साल की एज तक अगर उनके साथ शादी वादी नहीं होती, तो वो रह लेते हैं पेरेंट्स के साथ, और वो सेक्स की अपनी लाइफ को काट देते हैं अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज के अंदर कि ये तो मतलब सीन है ही नहीं. और फिर आपको और लोग प्रॉड करते हैं कि अरे आपने लड़की देख लो, ऐसा कुछ कर लो, राइट? स्पेशली फ्रॉम अ वेरी मेल स्टैंड पॉइंट, बिकॉज यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट इन सेइंग कि अगर तुम्हारे फ्रेंड्स ऐसे हैं या तुम्हारे ओवरआर्चिंग इंटरेस्ट हैं कि बेटा पढ़ो या फिल्में देखो या ये करो या वो करो, तो सेक्स का भी. एंड द अदर थिंग इज there isn't exactly a clear release to experiment with sex in India, primarily because, and we saw this in LSD as well, we have to eventually shack up in cramped up spaces in a limited time signature to make something happen. वो आजादी नहीं है कि मैं एक रूम में ऐसे नंगा हूँ, मैं 3 घंटे किसी बंदी के साथ हूँ, बाहर से कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है, कोई पुलिस वाला नहीं है, कोई होटल वाला नहीं है, कोई घर वाला नहीं है जो ठक ठक कर रहे हैं कि क्या हो रहा है. मतलब हमारे एज ए नेशन वी आर वेरी अफ्रेड ऑफ द नेकेड. नंगेपन से बहुत डर लगता है.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that's a very important point. ये जो space का issue है ना, it's a spatial issue. and it's not just a physical space that we are talking about, it's the emotional space we allow to people around us in our society. So it's really very deeply connected to emotional and physical spaces. The emotional space manifests itself in the physical space. The physical space only reflects what we are feeling, and the fabric of our families, the fabric of how we choose to live our lives within a family unit, that reflects in the sexual lives itself. Because हम लोग इतने used to हैं, as you were saying, अपने माँ बाप के साथ रहने में till very late, और decorum है, और एक तरीका है चीजों को करने का, where it's almost frowned upon to go into another human being space and have the need to knock, for example. It's a very very small thing, it's a basic thing, but the fact कि हम अपने दरवाजे खुले रखते हैं, it's designed to protect you from certain things. So being in that power position of where you are as a parent, the view into how we behave as a family is that जो आपके बच्चे हैं वो ज्यादा वल्नरेबल हैं, और आप ज्यादा पावर पोजीशन में हैं, और आप उनको प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं कुछ चीजों से। आप उनको एक पोजीशन तक लेके जाएंगे, एक टाइम तक लेके जाएंगे जहां वो तैयार हो जाएं अपनी लाइफ लीड करने के लिए, और फिर उसके बाद वो जो चाहें एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं। सो this whole system in itself has, I mean, one can argue both ways and say it has several good things also. Right. But it is not a system that is designed towards the individual. It is not designed to give enough importance, might be the wrong word, but enough agency to the individual to be able to explore themselves in a fully rounded sort of way. I mean, I remember my father coming up to me when he first discovered that I was masturbating, when he found out accidentally. I remember him coming up to me and saying, "Tu mar jayega." And I was scared. I was shit scared for the next 1 week after that, thinking that, oh fuck, main mar jaunga, And then I had to go out on my own and find out in different ways कि क्या होगा, man. So and that's a story that you hear about. It's not just me. That's a story you consistently hear over. I've had many of my friends describe the same story in different ways. So it's just these coping mechanisms within families which are not I don't know, which are not, they're not drilled to and created for the individual. It's a very collective living style, which I really feel is somewhere connected to the lack of space. We are so many people in our country, and we have such little space, that these systems have been created to design the space in such a way that it allows all of us to lead our lives together very, very close to each other, and hence as a result of that, the repression is caused.
Absolutely, man. Right. What is very interesting is I spent about 4 years abroad because I went to college in Boston. And that's when I realized the clutches. And I love the idea of collectivism in India as well. As a society, it functions brilliantly. But obviously the flaws there is that those clutches of society might become too much for you to actually individuate yourself. Ki main kaun hu, without, not existent in relation to my family or society. मैं अकेले कौन हूँ? उस चीज की जो flowering और blossoming है, उसके लिए you have to eventually separate and discover yourself, and then you may want to come back and stuff like that, right? But I remember something very funny. The first time I had sex, right, my immediate reaction was कि मैं अपने शरीर के साथ इतना advanced हो चुका हूँ इस space के अंदर, क्या मेरे को कोई देख लेगा? You know what I mean? It's like you're technically in the same space, right? But you have never done that movement, that set of things before. So you're always wondering if someone's going to walk into you. And also, by the way, just as like your dad walked onto you masturbating, my cook walked onto me masturbating, which was even fucking weird, right? क्योंकि वो मेरे से पूछने आ रहा था कि पाव भाजी खाओगे? as a result, it was just so awkward between us, because he doesn't have the verbal bandwidth, the mental bandwidth to address what happened between us, and I don't have the radical mindset of Raja Ram Mohan Roy's, modern age, कि मैं उसको जाके बोलूं कि नहीं ऐसे ये मोट मारना allowed होगा, तू भी मार. Because at the same time, I also endanger the females at my house, because if his sexuality is unleashed, right, it means terror. That means from that day onward he cannot be a cook in our house. अगर मैं उसको जाके इतनी liberating बातें बोलूंगा sex की, तो the fear is they're going to act it out.
Yeah, true.
Right? Because
Yeah.
What's also interesting is the fact that now that we have porn, or we have no sexual education, no idea about how to sort of emancipate yourself sexually. So you're standing on ladder 1 और तुमको 99 वाले फ्लोर की चाबी दे दी है, and you want to bridge that gap somehow, by hook or crook. And sometimes the result of that is like disaster. People can't control themselves क्योंकि इतना repress कर रखा है, इतना ठोक रखा है कि sex के बारे में सोच नहीं सकते. I remember also school. In fact, when I was in school, I was in a pretty conservative school, right? You sit right next to girls, and कुछ भी chemistry होती थी, teachers अलग हो जाओ, ये नहीं करना. वो अपनी insecurity break कर रही है, मतलब उनका पति के साथ उनका scene off है तो कह रही है तुम भी मत करो. Like ये क्या scene है?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about what is a possible solution to this entire? Because we are probably one of the most repressed countries sexually.
Yeah, what do I think is the solution? I don't know, man. I'm still exploring the whole thing myself.
Yeah.
मुझे भी नहीं पता. I'm also living my own life and trying to understand this thing, and trying to understand sexual repression, and trying to get to the bottom of it कि ये जो obsessive repressive nature है Indian male की, overall, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying it's limited only to men, but I'm able to better explore it from a male perspective. So that's why I'm talking about us. So
right.
I don't know. I mean, my only sort of takeaway from it so far is that it's a larger structure. The only way you can understand it is the overall superstructure, and the fact that it's related to space. It has a spatial perspective. It has an emotional space kind of perspective to it. But I don't even know what you can do about it within our country, except probably, I mean, me as a filmmaker, what I try to do is probably go back and recreate the experience for the milieu that it's most important in. There's really no fun making a film about repressed sexuality in an upper middle class privileged house. So why don't you, in this case I, with the feature that I'm trying to do now, take the story into a clammed up space and create a mirror with people who are experiencing this repressed sexuality, some who are aware and are acting on their sexual impulse, others who are completely unaware in different ways. This repressed sexuality sleeps in different layers at different levels with the mother in the house, with the father in the house, with the sister, with the brother, with your neighborhood woman, and then in a way it can be almost a disability. You can almost look at it as a disability. So is it a mental disability? Is it and what do people with physical disabilities do? How do they look at themselves as sexual animals? And can you equate this? So you just try to, I mean, how I'm trying to explore is just create a mirror and let the people almost become these animal voices, because really this amount of repression really is also harking back to some of our animal instincts that are within us. So create that animal space where you let it play out barebone, and hopefully be able to reach out to people with that experience, which is a non-judgmental experience where you just keep like a thali of khana at night. You just keep a thali of these experiences in front of people at night and ask them to watch it, and hopefully when they look at that mirror with that space jahan sirf kahani nahi ho raha hai, a film that is not obsessing with telling you a story, which has space for you to interact with it as a film within that experience, and leave some sort of negative space for you, जहां एज एन ऑडियंस आप देखते देखते कुछ जगह कुछ है नहीं है जहां फिल्म कह रही है और आप देख रहे हो और आप सोच रहे हो अब उस कैरेक्टर के बारे में, तो जब वो एक्सपीरियंस खत्म होगा तो शायद आप सोचोगे इस एक्सपीरियंस के बाद अपनी लाइफ के बारे में, और मुझे लगता है वहां से एक इन्वेस्टिगेशन शुरू हो सकता है. तो मैं तो ढूंढने की कोशिश कर ही रहा हूँ. मुझे लगता है कि मैं ये कर सकता हूँ कि मैं और चाबी भर सकता हूँ और लोगों को, कुछ और लोगों को जो भी ये ढूंढने की कोशिश करें, because I don't think I have all the answers. So that's how I'm trying to find the answer, to ask more questions and make the questions slightly bigger, so that someone somewhere probably will be able to come up with the answer.
Are you afraid?
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are you afraid that people might censor the movie, considering that if you're really trying to show the animalism of Indian sexuality, which, by the way, we're not. First of all, let's address the fact that we are sexual animals. ये तो deny करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. इसमें ही पहले फटती है लोगों की, ठीक है? Second, what I just said, right? Are you afraid that showing this sort of animalism in cramped up spaces, जहाँ मम्मी की भी sexuality, मम्मी भी turn on हो रही है, मम्मी का भी मन कर रहा है माली को देख के. I haven't watched your film, obviously. But मम्मी का मन कर रहा है कि मैं माली के साथ सेक्स करूं, ठीक है? Such a taboo, by the way, which is where all porn was also made, surprisingly, right? But the fact that you're essentially giving a smoldering Pandora's box to Indian viewers and saying कि तुम sexual हो, तुम sex कर सकते हो, ये तरीके हैं. Are you afraid of the repercussions?
No यार, मैंने डरना तो बहुत पहले ही छोड़ दिया था. Because that's not the kind of filmmaker that I want to be. If I wanted to be scared, I think there are many reasons to be scared for the kind of films that I'm making. तो वो तो फिर मैं शायद कुछ और तरह की फिल्म में बना रहा हूँ अगर मुझे डर लग रहा है. No, I think my primary preoccupation with wanting to make a film is to first explore an impulse that is really personal and go with the faith that this personal impulse is universal, that more people are feeling the same thing that I'm feeling. So I dive into a film that I dive into with that trust and that hope that here is a really, really personal, raw feeling that, and it's probably a difficult feeling which I'm feeling, but I'm not the only one. I cannot possibly be the only one. So you set out with that trust and hope, and at the end of the day, you can't make films for people or for an audience here. You yourself are the first audience, and you have to really sit down and ask yourself, what is it that I'm on the path to discover right now? And because ये तो सारा सच बोलने का मामला है. At the end of the day, बोलते हैं ना, फिल्में बनाते हो तो आप पूरे नंगे होते हो, तो जो भी आप बनाओगे वो तो eventually दिख जाएगा. तो झूठ बोला नहीं जा सकता. लोग जाके झूठ कंज्यूम कर सकते हैं, सब लोग मिल के इस आइडिया से कि हाँ हमने झूठ बोला और चलो आज हम एक झूठ देख के आते हैं. वो एक कलेक्टिव कंजम्पशन हो सकता है, पर जहां आप कंज्यूम करने की कोशिश नहीं कर रहे हो या योर प्रीऑक्यूपेशन इज नॉट विद कंजम्पशन, वहां आई थिंक एक पॉइंट के बाद झूठ बोला नहीं जा सकता है. सो it's really important to be completely honest and get to the bottom of what is it that you're setting out to explore. So no, and as far as sexuality is concerned, I think the idea of exploring this repressed sexuality is also, it's so tricky because it cannot turn into an exercise of titillation. Sexual lives की जहां हम बात करते हैं, वहां हम सिर्फ ये बात नहीं करते कि हर एक इंसान को सेक्स करना होता है. नहीं, एक्चुअली अगर 100 लोगों से आप मिलो हिंदुस्तान में, स्पेशली हम अपने देश की अगर बात कर रहे हैं, तो 90 लोगों को तो सेक्स करना ही नहीं होता है. Especially with women, the repression is to an extent where for several reasons you can meet a number of women who've had such bad sexual experiences that they just don't want to go there again, or
Right.
there, what happens to older women after a point. I think the sexuality also biologically sort of wanes off, but there are several layers to it's also under, what is the sexual repression under the act of not wanting to have sex anymore also. So I think the idea of sexuality and the idea of our sexual lives is a much larger matrix. It's like an iceberg, and there are so many layers. There are so many behaviors in a day, so many things in a day we do which are related to our sexual repression, and might not have anything to do with wanting to have sex at that moment at all. So when I'm talking of wanting to do a film on sexuality, I'm also talking of the larger matrix that we are in, where our sexual impulses, or the lack thereof, dominates a lot of things that we do through the day without ever probably realizing where that is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're definitely one of the most sex obsessed countries, but जो उसका तरीका होता है उसे निकालने का वो बड़ा सरल होता है. Discreetly यहाँ वहाँ गानों में आइटम नंबर्स में ऐसे जगह जगह घुसा देते हैं कि इधर से रिलीज ले लो, थोड़ा इधर से ले लो, थोड़ा इधर से ले लो. The other thing that you said is most people don't want to have sex and they're not even sure if they're repressed or like where is that coming from. It's not always कि वो इसलिए repressed हैं क्योंकि उनको sex करने का मन नहीं है. Maybe they're just maybe they've just tuned out everything where sexuality is a part of it, right? What I often see, especially in older people, and I know lots of older people in my life, is that they trade in their reality for a role. एक role वो कर लेते हैं कि मेरा दादी का role है, या मेरा गुरु का role है, या मेरा ये role है, मेरा वो role है. मैं उस role से बाहर नहीं निकलूंगा. उस role के बाहर जो भी है मैं उसे reject करूंगा completely. And there are enough dogmas and dictums and religious sermons which support that idea. So very, very fine. People are able to make peace with that. But it's often the stories that we never see on the camera or on podcast audio. कि जहाँ पे when one of those people make a mistake, and what is the cost of that mistake, right? When suddenly their animal behavior, their sexuality rises up to the surface and says, "You haven't addressed me for this long. I'm going to release myself one way or the other." And that's what happens. But you said that the entire structure of sexuality in India is so huge that we have to address it from multiple angles. How, especially the film that you are working on, Agra, how have you transformed your sexuality? Have you been going through changes or?
I don't know, yaar. This whole idea of catharsis for filmmakers, I feel, is very hyped. वो ऐसा कुछ
No, not necessarily catharsis.
I mean, चेंज होता है.
हाँ.
नहीं, मुझे नहीं लगता ऐसा कुछ होता है. I don't know. I mean, even if I have changed, I wouldn't know right now, because right now, as I am, I'd rather not watch myself now completely, because there's also the aspect of living your life the way you're living it, right?
Right.
So a lot of the ideas that you're playing with right now also come from, I feel, from distance, from having lived a certain kind of a portion of your life where you have lived it when you were living it you were fully within it, right? So
right.
If right now I'm talking about something that I'm not living fully, and right now I'm parallelly watching myself, then I'm not living it fully right now. So the experience in itself is a little, it's already a little bit of a dirty experience. It's not a pure experience of what you're living right now. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know how I'm changing right now. I think
you only know in that respect.
Yeah, I think there's a chunk of my life that I probably have lived, and I find myself at a slight distance from it now to be able to look at it and try to make some sense of it. And with that distance, in the process, जब आप इन ideas को process कर रहे हो और उनको एक string दे रहे हो, you're weaving something together, for it to make sense, for the process to be alive, you're also constantly playing with it and constantly trying to understand it. So to that extent, you probably, I mean, at its best, when the process comes out at its best, and you really have something at the end when you feel that it's successful, and you have something that says something hopefully new, or is bringing out a feeling that has been not touched before, then the process is that you start out with an understanding, or you think you have an understanding, but in the process of making what you're making, the material or the film or the story or the painting or whatever art form it is starts to speak back to you, because you are trying to have a conversation with it, so that by the time you finish the process, you have a larger understanding of what you had started out doing. So in that sense, you're probably, learning about what it is that you set out to do, and there's a change in your idea of what it is that you set out to do. But is it changing me now? I don't know. I wouldn't know, honestly.
Yeah. So you would identify as being straight right now, like regular sexually straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I understand how awkward and weird it is, but this is primarily some of our conditioning also coming up, right? Because let's say if we were like typically, I don't know, if this was like a podcast happening in the USA, we would be on a different tangent where we would explore this. But on a platform like this, like kya aap straight hain, kya aapko ladkiyan pasand hai? It's like, you know what I mean.
Disappointingly so, yeah. But I'm straight as they come. I would have loved to, have some other
some more flowers in your cap, some more
to
feathers.
Go a little more,
yeah,
be a little bit more kinky and be able to explore a bit more. But as of now, pretty straight.
Yeah. You know what's really weird is that I used to watch as like an 18-year-old. I still do that sometimes. I used to watch like Indian porn just for the fun of it, just to see like what it's about. And I was always surprised by how they only have sex in one position, which is, the standard missionary. And G. Tile, the author, he writes something very wonderful about the way most Indian women who haven't been sexualized, who don't know how sexual they are, the way they have sex is that they'll just, lie there mute and not make any sound, not smile or do anything. And then it just happens. And the guys also, they don't know about climax, they don't know about satisfaction, they don't know about intimacy, but एक general desire है, उसको करना है, करके फिर आगे. And that's how like millions of bedrooms in India function, just like missionary style, regular, कुछ कोई attraction नहीं, कुछ pleasure नहीं, कुछ stimulation नहीं, कोई बातें नहीं, बस एक काम करना है, करके अपना regular काम करने चलो. But yeah, that was just a tangent that I wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I call having sex with the self. And I think what I specifically tried to explore this, not exactly jaise tum bol rahe ho abhi, but in the sex scene in Binnu, in the longish sex scene, it's really after a point Binnu having sex with himself rather than with the girl. And the girl's major annoyance is that she realizes that he's not there, that he is not having sex with her. He's too busy taking in the act itself. And yeah, it's strange, but it's human. I think in a lot of the cases, eventually, I don't know if it's as prevalent outside of India, but I think it's a strange thing with Indian sexuality that most of us end up having sex with ourselves rather than with the person that we are with,
Yeah, I'm going to say something very juvenile right now, because I remember like I've shared experiences with guys of my age and girls also. So it's like the first time most of them had sex, this is exactly, oh, मैं sex कर रहा हूँ. Oh, it's that thing, that message that rushes to your brain. Ki, oh shit, I am having sex. I even remember like one time. So like I haven't been this honest in my podcast ever. But there was this one time, this is my first time. So imagine colonial subjugation and imagine like, the layers of insecurity you have around wanting to have sex with white women, right? And this is sort of what I grew up with all my life. And then at the age of 19, I had sex with a beautiful white blonde. And I literally, this is what I did. I said, my ancestors, मेरे ancestors देख रहे हो, मैं कहाँ पहुँच गया हूँ? मैं कहाँ पहुँच गया हूँ? But it just shows it. I guess you're right. It is a very human thing to say, ki, oh shit, this is actually happening to me, and I am doing this, as opposed to this, this playing of two souls and two sexes and doing something together, that mutual river of interaction. वो हम भूल जाते हैं अपने खुद के उसमें caught up होके थोड़ा सा.
Yeah, I think, and it's closely built into the idea of repression that we've been talking about, because itna zyada lack hai kisi cheez ka that I think when we do eventually end up getting it, then the thing by itself becomes an object, and really your exploration is more obsessive with that object in itself, rather than the person you can share that experience with.
Yeah, absolutely.
The act itself gets objectified by the very nature of the way we sort of choose to deal with it in our society.
Yeah, you're in love with the idea of sex, not the sex with the partner itself. Fuck. So apart from sexuality that is repressed, because we've covered a huge chunk of that, what are some other themes that you aim to cover? And you don't go about intentionally saying कि मेरे को ये theme cover करने हैं, but considering that based on the hype that you've built, at least for me in this conversation around Agra, is it a film primarily about sexuality? What else are we talking about here?
Yeah, it is a film primarily about sexuality and the idea of space, physical space, because I think you also have to look at look at sexuality with the lens of something. Why are our sexual lives the way they are? Why are we repressed? So I think the lens that I'm trying to take is a lot of what we've talked about today. I don't know how we didn't plan to talk about this, but we very organically ended up talking about space. And when you mentioned it for the first time, I was like, wow, it's actually what the film is about. So so the lens onto it is physical space, and how the spaces that we live in affect our sexual lives, and this lack of space in the culture we live in, and really मतलब जो इतनी एक तरह से crammed in है ना, उसको literally explore करने की कोशिश करिए. So the sexuality is being looked at with the lens of the spatial relationships that we have.
Yeah, I remember this one, because when you were saying space, right, I could not help but think this image came to me again and again as you were saying it. Bhag Milka Bhag, the scene where Milka Singh is young in the camp. I don't know if you've seen the film, but his sister and his sister's brother, उन लोगों ने basically इंडिया और पाकिस्तान की पार्टीशन हुई है, तो वो पार्टीशन से पाकिस्तान से इंडिया आए और रेफ्यूजी कैंप में रह रहे हैं. उस कैंप के अंदर एक टेंट है, उस टेंट में मिल्खा सो रहा है, उसकी दीदी सो रही है जो बड़ी है, और उसका हस्बैंड है. There is a tent, there is a partition in the middle in the tent. तो वो जो उसका मिल्खा की दीदी का हस्बैंड होता है, वो बोलता है उस सुन पैर दबाई, which is an indication कि अब आके करते हैं, ठीक है. And Milka is sleeping right there. This is young Milka. So he listens in, and वो उसको थोड़ा मारता भी है apparently film के अंदर. And because she's saying कि मिल्खा यहाँ पे मत कर, because his ravenous hunger is so much कि मिल्खा उस partition के पीछे से पूरा सुन रहा है, उसकी दीदी सेक्स कर रही है उसके husband के साथ, and he has to bear it. And so he's uncomfortably privy to his sister's sexuality without even volunteering for it, right? So yeah. I mean, that's the image that came to my mind, and there are several other instances also where. Like I find one thing that is very amusing is, why don't parents have more sex when their children grow up? Like I don't know about that. Like why shouldn't that be a thing, right? I mean, plenty of people abroad have sex when their children grow up, but something about adult children in the house and the parents saying कि नहीं हमारा अब sex.
Yeah, it's weird, yeah, because also there's this other strange thing of how so many parents start sleeping in different rooms.
Yeah. This is a very Indian thing, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very, very Indian thing, and I've been thinking about it of late a lot, and it's just I've seen it with too many sets of parents for it to just be something personal, and it's I don't know why that happens. there's a decline in looking at yourself as a sexual being as we start living with our children. So yeah, it ties into that whole idea that we discussed in the beginning, that family unit एक तरह से वो, because at the base of it तो power है ना. There's someone who has power in the house, and all relationships at the end of the day are built on power. So if there is lack of just the if there's lack of placing agency in a child, where you are treating someone as vulnerable and powerless in the house that you need to take care of,
Right.
then you yourself are putting yourself in a very powerful position, which will have some sort of effect on the sexual ghost that is present in the house, because there is a sexual ghost that is present in the center of every house, right? So if from it being an equal relationship, or let's say more or less, and if it started out as a 60-40 relationship between a husband and wife, and now there's a third player in that power equation who's by the fact of him being powerless is actually taking a lot of power from you, because you were treating them as powerless and vulnerable, then what happens to the transfer of power between the man and woman? And this play of power is felt by everybody within the family unit, whether or not you acknowledge it or not, whether or not you talk about it or not, but it is getting played out. It's the daily drama of the house that is getting played out, because even when that little infant, that baby is crying, he or she knows that that cry will be answered and the mother will enter. After 6 cries, they are learning that, okay, so this level of crying is what gets the mother back in. So now if a child, where children are known to be the most receptive till about 3 years of age, if they are learning and if they are beginning to use that power, then is the most vulnerable person in the house really the most powerful? So all these ripples are moving around, and it's really interesting to then go back and try to understand how the sexual ghost of the house is reacting to these power ripples, flitting about the house. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
What is the idea of the sexual ghost, man? I'm fascinated by this idea.
No, the idea is that there is हर घर की एक नींव होती है, and the act of I personally think that the sexual act is one of the most pure acts, because as you grow closer and closer to orgasm, you're peeling off several layers that you don't show to everybody else.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So the social being is a hugely camouflaged being, and these layers come off the moment you get into a sexual act. Now, those layers that dropping of the camouflage can be temporary when you're in a temporary sexual act. But once you do get to a point where you're with someone who you treat as a long-term partner, that sexual act starts to have a completely different ring and tone and tenor to it, and hence the camouflage dropping. If the more number of times you're engaging in that sexual act, the camouflage drops further and further and further till you are bare naked to each other, and both of you know each other well enough to enter into this contract of wanting to be with each other, because you like each other's nudity. And here I'm talking about the emotional nudity, because there is no camouflage. So once all the layers are peeled off, you like what you see. In many ways, a woman can probably like the how should I say, the complete the idea that this man will be able to go and forage out into the world and be able to get what we need for this family about to begin.
He's a hunter-gatherer. He's an alpha male. That sort of idea. Yeah. He's able to provide for a family.
And a man can like several things about the woman that he sees completely naked. So now this act of coming together, because it germinates in our most intimate moments, which by their very nature are least camouflaged in the act itself. If you really go down and try to understand what houses are truly built on, a lot of it is, there is the ghost of the sexuality in the house. Beneath every house is the ghost of the of two sexual lives that were in an act or several acts where they had moments of truth and said, okay, हाँ ठीक है, चलो करते हैं, or I don't know.
Just one. No, that is fantastic. I think you're absolutely right in saying that, and you probably had more experience with long-term partnership because obviously you're married, right? I haven't had that experience, but what I've had is like, I definitely understand that the more you do it, there's also this other idea that sometimes you will not like the nakedness of the other person. Sometimes you'll be repelled by it, and that's when you decide to cut it off. Other times you would like the nakedness complete with its insecurities and flaws, and you still decide this is something worth having long term, so let's do it. But the times you're repelled by it, you're like,
actually I slightly disagree there. I think most of the times you choose to be with people whose nudity.
Say that again. Sorry, I lost the audio.
I was saying that I slightly disagree, because I feel most of the times you choose to be with the person in a long-term relationship with whose nudity you don't like rather than you like them, because they are completing a part of you which you don't like about yourself. So the need to be with this other is also a need to fulfill an absence, a part that is absent within you. So there has to be a certain deep dislike for that other thing for you to want it and to want to be it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the union. It's like what I'm scared of about myself when I see that in you, I'm content ki iske andar bhi hai wo, even though I don't like it in myself, but I'd be much more happy to see it in you, right? And vice versa. Yeah, I'll just give this one more anecdote because it's funny, and then we'll end this lovely conversation. I have been experimenting for the last 2 years, especially when I'm engaged in sex with girls who are Indian, is I try to have sex in Hindi. And if you've ever had sex in Hindi, you know how weird it can get. Because something about, oh, fuck me, daddy, oh, fuck me, fine. That's all, everyone can say that. It's the new woke thing, right? Everyone has been saying, everyone in India who is educated and middle class and modern has been having sex in English, right? It's the cool thing. To have sex in Hindi implies immediately, especially if this is a girl you like, she doesn't know much about you, right? You're still sort of in the initial stages. It immediately will debase you down to a level where if anything but the truth is communicated from the other side, you're not interested. Because मैंने तो अपनी बिल्कुल खोल के ही दिखा दिया ना कि मैं अंदर से एक रिक्शे वाला हूँ. मतलब मैं अंदर से बोलना चाहता हूँ, सुनीता, मैं तुम्हें चोदना चाहता हूँ, as opposed to कि सुनीता, I want to fuck you. There's something there's something very freeing about having it in Hindi. I don't know.
Yeah, I think because it's power. It's again the power that you hold because class gets taken out of it. At the onset. So that's a huge thing. Yeah, this is really interesting what you're saying.
No, I've never said this out on a podcast. Only a couple of my friends know it, but it's like I will literally even try and say ki, now you say this in Hindi, and most will resist, right? Because everyone is foreign to this idea. But we enter a very honest place after that. I kid you not. My eyes are big because we really enter a very honest place after that where everything is okay. Everything is okay between us. There is no, especially, I don't participate in the hookup culture as much as I used to, but there is definitely a role that you play to get to the act of sex with someone you meet at a club, right? You definitely embellish slightly. you do the right things. I mean, the idea is to naturally try and become that authentic person, which gets it. But then once the clothes are off, it's very important to also switch over from that role. Otherwise, there's always this sort of key. I'm playing my coolest part, you're playing your coolest part. हम लोग तो cool लोग हैं, हम लोग cool लोग sex कर रहे हैं. लेकिन नहीं, सच ये है कि मैं तो असली में ऐसा हूँ. वो तो बस एक, it's better to be honest from the onset, and that might mean scaring a lot of people off and people not liking you, but the rewards of that are fantastic. So I don't know. I just wanted to share.
I can sense it.
Yeah, man. Kanu, it has been a blast having you on this podcast, man. I did not expect to talk about the things we talked about today. I'm super excited for Agra, and if obviously people who are listening in who have not tuned off by now, if you were listening with your parents, not a good idea, but or actually a great idea. Make sure you scandalize your parents a little bit. They should know कि वो भी sex कर सकते हैं. So if you were doing any of those things, Kanu is on Instagram at Kanu Behl, KNUBHL. And is there anything else that you would like to plug, Kanu?
No, I'm good. It's just been amazing talking to you, man.
Yeah, fantastic, man. All right. Thank you so much.
Great.